Welcome back to another episode of the Manna Daily Podcast. Today, I am rejoined with Renee. Unfortunately, the Bames and Stuart was not able to make it today. We're going to be reading the last installment of the 4,000 Years of Christmas, a book by Earl W. Count and his wife. Some people have been appreciating it. Other people have been giving me nice negative reviews. But for the most part, it seems a lot of people are appreciating getting little details, the little minutia in between like bigger podcast presentations. As well, they also appreciate that we have a little bit of dialogue and discourse talking about what we read. If you guys have been enjoying it and you're interested in us kind of doing maybe other books or chapters or whatever on other topics, please feel free to comment that down below. As well, if you would like to support the show as the individuals on this panel are, you can go over to my Patreon and you can customize $3, $5, $10. I don't want to ever go above that unless you can, which I do appreciate. But like PBS, this is fully funded by you, the listeners. As well, Cashapp, Patreon, and PayPal. All those links are down below. Just click the See More button and you'll see all where you can find me on all that stuff. And without any further ado, Renee, welcome back to another installment.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Yes, yes.
I missed last time.
Do you have any yes, you did miss last time. Do you have anything you wanted to add? Any notes that you wrote? I was telling people this is she's one of the ones that writes notes
I do.
during the thing. And I do
You can
like
tell,
that
yeah.
because I do see this as kind of like classroom do
Yeah.
your own stuff once you leave. Any insights that you had?
No, so it's been because I missed last time, so I feel like I'm out of my rhythm with this book, so that was hard. And I watched just a little bit of the last recording, but not enough. But yeah, there was just a few a few things I'm just curious about, like just this whole like the redhead guy, the red nose guy that like we were talking about, like maybe Ronald McDonald. Like I know, and I know about that, like McDonald's and that stuff.
Pennywise and stuff like that too.
Yeah.
Red-nosed
So
reindeer, red-nosed
yes,
giants.
that's what I was making about, like red. I was like, oh my gosh, red nose reindeer, the clowns. What the heck?
Again, I can't say that I have enough on that, but this is again where I recommend to people if you do ask your Google or whatever, this is
Yeah.
the kind of stuff. He's like, you got a little bit of a hint, and then what I usually
Okay.
will do, like I have a hunch, and then I'll ask a thing. What's the origins of the
Okay.
fascination of red clowns, like with red clown nose or red nose reindeer, right? And then
Yes.
maybe it'll pop up with something. I'll also ask sometimes if there are books talking about the mythos, whether anthropology or mythos. Anthropology is the study of history of ancient cultures.
Right.
In mythos, why? Because some of the mythos that we hear is actually Nephilim related with their religion of what people were practicing. They still worship the archons, the titans, right? When we wrestle
Oh,
not against flesh and blood, that's kind of what it's inferring, is we're also worshiping the pagan wise, right? They are
right.
worshiping the fallen children of the fallen angels.
Okay.
They want bodies. They also want, they possess things. Like I was
Mm-hmm.
talk, I was listening to it because it hit me on the show, and I was like, I didn't even think of that prior to the show when I was talking about the talking trees
Oh
from
yeah, yeah.
Pocahontas, the Wizard of Oz. I think if other people
Um,
are listening, they probably have watched other like horror or whatever, and
yeah,
there'll
well,
probably be a genre where you're just like, yeah, that is interesting. Why did they have this thing where they believed a tree could talk? This
right.
or Lord of the Rings.
I was
There's
just
another
gonna
one.
say, I was just gonna interject, Lord of the Rings, my gosh. Yeah.
Yes, yeah. It's like, where do you
Yeah.
think this stuff came
No,
from? Like a lot of
no.
times now, I'm kind of lifting a little bit of a scrutiny eye at Tolkien with
Mm,
the Palantir.
mm,
Plus things like that. Same thing with C.S. Lewis, with the
okay.
faunus being the particular thing that saw Lucy at the
Oh,
lamppost. Maybe there's a little bit of a tree of life connotation there at the
oh,
occult. I don't
wow.
know. It just is something
Wow.
that does make me raise my eyebrow now when you understand symbolism
Wow.
of their mythology. You now
Mm,
start to go, maybe there's a little something more. Again, it's proceed with caution. I do understand you'd like
yeah,
to
yeah.
embellish with fiction. I'm just saying for people to kind of sit back and be like, okay, while it's entertainment, I had to also be a little bit restraining on myself. Like there could be
Mm.
putting a subliminal message
Oh,
programming
right,
for me.
right, right, right.
Anyways, any other
Yeah.
points?
No, no, I'm just
Okay.
excited to listen to
All
this
right.
part. So
Without any
anytime.
further ado, we will start with where we left off. The tree. That's perfect.
Oh, perfect.
People, side note, before I read,
Okay.
I have been kind of holding off on posting other stuff that I've done. I did a couple more episodes with Doreen one-on-one. A lot of
Hmm.
people do appreciate when I do one-on-one chats, whether it was with Mark, whether it's Doreen, or talking with old friends of mine.
Hmm.
Um, a lot of people seem to appreciate that. I do have those in the wing. I just kind of wanted to do Bing, Bing, Bing of 1, 2, 3 of the 4,000 Years of Christmas. So I've been holding off because I only record these on Saturdays. That is why there's a delay with not me cranking out episodes, but that will probably start kicking up once these are all out, since this is the last installment. All
Hmm.
right, here we go. The tree. Whence came the Christmas tree? And when did it arrive? Mystery blurs the true answer. There have been so many speculations about its origin that it's best way to clear away some of the false ideas that have concealed whatever of fact is really known. To the collection of false ideas, we may at once assign the widespread notion that Martin Luther was out walking one night and the stars suggested to him lights, which he then placed on a fir tree to brighten the Christmas of his son. Nor can a good case be made for the Yule log as the ancestor of the Christmas tree. One favorite notion has been that it is the symbol of the tree of life, which stood in the Garden of Eden. Indeed, in the 18th and 19th centuries, in northern Germany, that is precisely the way people regarded it. In Hamburg, for instance, you could buy little figurines of Adam and Eve and the serpent to place under the tree. But this idea attached itself to the tree late in its history, and then only in a region where the tree had not originated. The reason for this mistake is worth recording. December 24th in the medieval church calendar was Adam and Eve's Day. On this day, the people acted the legends of the Garden of Eden. And before the show, the actors trooped through the town, with Adam carrying the tree of life on which apples were hung. What makes it so hard to state, certainly, just when and where and how the Christmas tree came into this is the fact that the precise event was never written down. Furthermore, the veneration of some particular tree as being the property or the dwelling of a spirit was so widespread and so varied among the pagan Europeans that the customs which grew up about it have provided a wide range for those who like to make guesses. We do not have to go back far in time to see the peasants of Europe setting up and decorating trees on almost every important holiday. The maypole itself was a tree, and even bore the same ornaments that were used on the Christmas tree. But garnished trees also stood in the Shrovetide, Palm Sunday, Easter, Ascension Day, Harvest Home called Harvest May, and St. Martin's, St. Nicholas's, St. New Year's, and even others. If the tree of Christmas is particular belongs to this family, then somehow and unaccountably it is the lone survivor. We do not know that the tree is part of the common people, contributed to Christmas. The church not only did not create it, but frowned upon it. First came to the attention when it first came to the attention. Even as late as the 1740s, the Reverend Johann Conrad Donauer, if you're writing that down, that is Dannhauer, of Strasbourg, had this to say. Among other trifles with the people often occupy the Christmas time, more than with God's word, is also the Christmas or fir tree, otherwise called the yew tree, as I've said in other shows, which they erect in the house and they hang with dolls and sugar, and thereupon shake and cause to lose its bloom. Where the habits comes from, I know not. It is a bit of child's play. Far better were it for the children to be dedicated to the spiritual cedar tree of Christ. In this, the Roman clergy were at one with the Protestant pastor. There are many accounts of Christmas festivities going back into the Middle Ages, but they never mention the Christmas tree. A forest ordinance from Ammerschweier of Alsace, and that's Alsace, dated in 1561, says that no bearer shall have for Christmas more than one bush of more than 8 shoes length. This seems to be the first mention of anything that can be recognized as the tree. In a travel book dated 1605, there is this passage. At the Christmas time in Strasbourg, they set up fir trees in the rooms, and they hang on them roses cut from many colored paper, apples, wafers, gilt, sugar, and so on. They make around them four-cornered space, and in front here lines the fade out. The tree hangs. Briefly and simply, the Christmas tree seems to have sprung from the devil deifying green. Defying green, with which the long-standing tradition of the Northland had decorated house and barn at New Year's. Blah. The green sometimes took the form of tree tip hung from the rafters. In some places, this still is the custom. In Styria, Austria, as in other Roman Catholic lands, the tip of the fir or spruce decorated with red strips of paper, apples, and gilded nuts is hung upside down in the corner of the living room, known as the Lord God's Corner. Even as late in the mid-19th century in Germany, there were other ways of hanging a Christ tree in the window from the rafters of the room, with tip upward, the butt sharpened, and an apple suspended under it. While the whole tree was dressed with paper, tin, stars, cakes, apples, and candles, as late as 1890 in some places, the tree was hung over the doorway, upside down, without lights, but colorfully decorated. The tree blooms. In her treasure chest of folklore, the church keeps the story that on the first Noel, the world awoke to sing as it had never done before. The animals in their stalls began to talk to each other in defiance of the snow and the night's darkness. Trees put forth blossoms and fruits. The heavens shed a healing dew, and the rivers and walls turned to wine. This story the priests never tired of relating to the people. At last it came to be believed that the miracle repeated itself in rare places every Christmas Eve. Some of the more rugged spirits among the folk used to go where such trees or bushes were said to be, and watch through the night for the marvelous bloom. This power was a rare and special heritage. In the Alsatian village, says one legend, there is a rose that does not bloom in the time of roses on the night of the Nativity. Alone it comes to flower and glows afar. For it is stalked from the bush on which Mary hung her baby swaddling clothes while her flight into Egypt. To Glastonbury, says another legend, came Joseph of Arimathea, he in whose tomb Jesus had been laid away, and was brought the Holy Grail to England. There is a plant. There he planted his staff and settled down, and there he died. The staff rooted and became a thorn tree. Slips from the bush were transplanted to other spots in the neighborhood, and the thorn always came into full bloom on Christmas Day. In the year 1752, England changed from the Julian Old Style to the Gregorian New Style calendar, and September 2nd became September 14th. This, of course, advanced December 25th by 12 days. It was not a change that the good peasantry could easily comprehend, but a test of the rightness of the innovation lay at hand. When would the thorn bush bloom? On Christmas, Old Style, or Christmas, New Style? On the day of the new Christmas, they turned out with the lanterns and the candles to watch, and the thorn failed to bloom. Therefore, it was not Christmas. They refused to go to church and pretend that it was. They waited until Christmas, Old Style, to finish their scientific experiment. And lo, the thorn blossomed. Therefore, the Old Style calendar was right. The Christmas tree bears flowers and fruits because of the blossoming trees and bushes of the first Noel, at least as far back as the 16th century. Some southern Germans cut cherry and hawthorn boughs on St. Andrew's Day, November 30th. and place them in a pot of water in warm room. By Christmas they spread and put forth full bloom. If the flowers were many, the new year would be goodly, and if they did not prosper, neither would be the coming year. The tree stands. The forest ordinance of Amershwire, already cited, indicates that by the middle of the 16th century, some Alsatians had passed from hanging greens to a standing tree. In other countries, Eastern Germany, England, Holland, Switzerland, Scandinavia, and Russia, the people constructed something out of greenery, which had been called a pyramid. That's a little bit of a nod. Again, pyramid, Christmas tree, phallic symbols. What do you call it? You know what I'm talking about. The thing, the Washington
Obelisks,
Monument. I'm trying to blank what you call it. Thank
obelisk.
you.
Am I saying it
Obelisk.
right?
Yes,
Obelisk. Okay.
obelisks. And we see that all over the world.
Yeah.
Here, again, before we continue, pyramid, pi, fire, Re, Ra, sun god, that's an equivalent of Nimrod,
Oh.
mid, in your midst. So
Oh.
pyramid means fire of the sun god in your midst. And you'll note there is a blazing fire over the all-seeing eye, or behind it. Sun god worship, son of god worship. Yeah, it's Tammuz, Nimrod's son. Here is one of the instructions for making it. From the four corners of the wooden base, erect some uprights of a very moderate length, tapering them in together at the top. Use this frame on which to tie the greenery of boxwood, fir, or pine, colored papers, and other decorations. Add candles, top with tinsel pennant. If you wish to indulge your fancy, landscape the base with a miniature garden. Our lighted and garnished Christmas tree apparently came into being when it was decorated by the Austrian fir tree, moving eastward and then northward, at last met in the lightened pyramid somewhere in Germany. Even after this happened, we do not know when it took place. All the older forms, pyramid, holly, decorated with an apple, hanging trees, and others, continue on, the pyramid as late as 1917. Now, in the Encyclopedia Book of Symbolism, Elements in Symbolism, you guys probably remember me reading that from other shows. It talked about how not St. Peter, Prince Albert, Queen Victoria's husband, was the guy that kind of introduced the Christmas tree into England, and it became like this magical ritual. Note 1917, you're kind of just weaning off of the Victorian era.
Oh.
So again, a little something there. This little it does check out with, okay, you're not just pulling at things, you can cross-reference. As I always emphasize, while we have speculation with a lot of this, we have some documentation. When we piece it all together, okay, so this is what they're not telling us. Why would they not tell you this in school?
Yeah.
Because corporations would lose a lot of money
Oh,
if
right,
Christians
right.
actually were like, well, that doesn't sound like a good incentive for me to do that. Well, all right, just take away that history. Don't tell them. Tell everybody was bigoted for not accepting all the Irish and Germans for their stuff. This is the charming story of how the Christmas tree was used in Wittenberg as far back as 1737. On Christmas Eve, the lady of the manor set up as many fir trees as there were people from whom she had gifts. She stood the trees in a row according to size, and dressed them richly or slightly in order of size. She placed gifts under each, and lighted candles on them, and summoned the household. The largest and best filled trees went to those she loved best. Finally came the servants, and each went to their humbler tree and their gift. By the later 18th century, the Christmas tree, now fully ornamented and benignly alight, had wandered far and wide through the hamlets and towns of Germany. In 1815, a princess of Nassau-Weilburg lighted a tree at the court of Vienna and urged Kaiser Franz I to adopt it. In the early 19th century, it even had crossed the eastern frontier into Poland. Although the Poles have never taken it to their hearts as the Germans have, from Vienna, the tree journeyed to Prague, and today we find it in Britain, Scandinavia, the lowlands, and France. When was the tree first set up in America? We really do not know. There are some tales about it. For instance, that the Hessian soldiers whom King George III sent over during our Revolutionary War celebrated Christmas in the way of their homeland, while George Washington and his Continentals were wintering at the Valley Forge. It is said, furthermore, that a farmer in Catskill named Mark Carr, and that's spelled with two R's, in 1851 first sold Christmas trees in New York City. This suggests that by then, at least, part of the United States was so used to them that a farmer could make profit by selling them to city people. Now, that's the end of the chapter. Something that I was finding interesting with that is that I think they said Christmas was banned in America till 1836. So between 36 to 51, you had like the Irish potato famine, stuff
Okay.
like that, somewhere in the
Okay.
1830s, 40s. I think, cross-reference me,
Okay.
I could be wrong.
I don't know. Okay.
But I did a post on Instagram, and the migrational aspect, right? It started spiking, and then over here, like, okay, well, doesn't seem that bad. It's actually kind of charming. I guess
Uh-huh.
they'll adapt it, and next thing you know, oh,
Oh my
you
gosh.
just introduced all this paganism in here.
Yeah.
Um, as well, I think Carr is an Irish last name, if I'm not
I think
mistaken.
so.
And then one thing I wanted to say before I give it up to questions is that you did kind of notice the thing with the pyramid, and they're talking about the migrational aspect. Now, I've speculated this before that when you had Moses in Egypt, what was the first miracle that God had him do? He had him throw down his shepherd's staff. Why? Because this was supposed to rival Thoth, aka the Hermetic Hermes staff, the Caduceus staff, right? The two snakes
Okay.
intertwined on it.
Uh-huh.
And what did the bad guys do? The magicians, right? The magas. That's literally what their equivalent are. They threw down their staffs, and God's shepherd staff, Moses' thing, it ate the other two. Now, I don't think that's a coincidence because later on, when the children of Israel, after they leave Egypt, first thing they do, they build an Apis bull, Apis. It represented a reigning monarch in Egypt. So God's
Mm.
literally trying to have a marriage ceremony, right? Top of Mount
Mm-hmm.
Sinai. You guys will be my people. I will be Moses. What are they doing? They're literally building something to represent reigning monarch Nimrod from Egypt and to be their representative, the golden calf. That's how we read it.
Okay.
But anthropology wise, what was the bull mean in Egypt, right? Because if they're trying to build something of what they're fond of or they remember being around, they're now adapting, right? They're what do they call it? Appropriating the Egyptian culture. And God's
Mm-hmm.
like, no, you're supposed to be separate. You're not supposed to be like the other nations. That's a constant reiteration through Leviticus and all that. So we then also start getting the time in the camp when everybody started getting bitten by the snakes. And God has Moses to go build a bronze serpent and put it on a staff, right? And we get over to right before John 3:16, John 3:14, right? Just as Moses lifted up the serpent in the wilderness, so shall the Son of Man be lifted up, right? If you look to Christ, not the cross, you look to Christ, you shall be saved, right? Now, I think it's in First or Second Kings, we have a story where people started worshiping the bronze serpent. And I can't remember which king it was, but he basically went full on Pull a Gideon, as I call it, iconoclast, someone who destroys graven images because they're being worshipped and we're not supposed to be worshiping them. They went and destroyed it. But why were they doing it? Again, probably somebody went to Egypt and said they had something similar, and if we already got this and it's ordained by Moses, and we make the justification, we do it again. But the consistent theme is serpent, right? So my hunch is then we get over to the Druids, Hollywood, holly tree, right? And what do we know St. Patrick for? Driving the snakes out of Ireland, referring
Yeah.
to Druids. Druids kind of magicians, magicians in Egypt. Is there a little bit of a connection? And now we have this thing with a thing called a pyramid and Christmas trees. And when they were describing the process, cross-reference that with Jeremiah 10, 1 through 5. And I guarantee you, like, if you want to pause right now, go get your Bible, read it. This is what we're all talking about. We're saying it's describing setting up a Christmas tree. They fasten it so it does not totter, and then they or don't they don't it with all of these ornaments, right? So, anyways, I just wanted to throw that in there. Anything you have, Renee? I love how you
Oh,
take notes.
oh
Fast.
yeah, you know what? I just it's kind of like a way of doodling. It helps me concentrate and focus
Yeah, yeah.
going along. So sometimes I go reference it.
I'm hoping that's what people do with my longer presentations. I truly do. I'm never in their homes. If you want to write that down
Right.
below, make me part of it. I mean, we're a community here. I'm
Hmm.
happy that it's worth writing down notes as opposed to I'm so bored here.
Okay, yeah, no, it's
It's
so
encouraging.
fascinating. And it's, well, there's so much information. So I'm just like,
Mhm.
okay, that feels pretty pertinent right there. I want to write down that date or this, this person's name in case it comes up again. Because
Yeah.
I have other sources that I listen to and it's all helping me integrate it. But um that Apis bowl, what so
APIS is what it's called.
okay, APIS. So what does that represent again? So
So it represented the reigning monarch,
oh,
fertility.
that's right. That's
I think
right.
it was
Okay.
virality, virality,
Virility. Yeah.
virility.
Mm.
Thank you. See,
Yeah.
guys, I don't pronounce everything correctly. It's because
Right.
there's a lot of stuff I'm reading, but at least I'm attempting to, and you knew what I meant. So there we
I
go.
know.
Um,
Oh,
but yeah,
okay.
that was what it basically
Oh,
represented when
goodness.
I looked it up. And again, anthropology says, okay, so there's something here. What did this mean to a surrounding culture and or to the Hebrews, to
Okay.
so and so? And when you read other books like people like Michael Heiser or Gary Wayne stuff, they'll give
Hmm.
you the what do you call it? The glossary of all of it.
Okay.
I kind of hone in specifically on the anthropology. They're talking about all the bloodlines, this thing, and what this means
Hmm.
with the word, and this means that. Me, I try to look more specifically, okay, why did they build this?
Mm.
Right? What did it mean to them? As opposed, again, because a lot of people are saying, well, that's paganism, that's Satanism. Okay, but what is that? It's worshiping Satan. Okay, but what does that look like? Because we seem to be, throwing a dart at the board, but we're hitting the wall behind it. Yes, worshiping
Mm.
Satan, bad, cool, we get that. But
Hmm.
why do they do what they do? What is the incentive? Why do they go through this process, right? Because if you start seeing somebody in the shallow end of the pool heading towards that direction, wouldn't it behoove you to have an answer of saying, well, this is why we don't do that as Christians? Because, see, historically, this is where that eventually led to. And this is just a modern, like, Gnosticism. That's modern New Age or Freemasonry, right? This
Okay.
is what they
Oh,
teach.
okay.
So now we're over here going, okay, oh, really, I'm trying to do. Okay, so this is what they were believing, and the early church had a problem with this group. Where eventually did this lead to? Same thing with graven images. Well, Brandon, doesn't it help us with worshiping? If we have like this beautiful portrait of a saint or the Virgin Mary and stuff like that, and I'm over here going, all right, I'll entertain it for a second. No, why would I say this? Well, I'm reading a book, and some people were getting to the point once it was allowed, they were making literal shrines to be godparents to their kids. They were having divination things where this statue healed my kid or did this and that. And I'm like, okay. So now you're telling me that something that has a mouth but does not speak, has ears but cannot hear, right? Graven image. So there's a reason why God specifies not even not to worship it, but don't even make it. When you look at the Ten Commandments, don't make graven images. And this is why they had all this bloodshed and stuff like that. Now, do I support what the state did on either side of reigning monarchs that were pro iconoclasm, which is destroying of images and cutting out people's tongues and doing all this crazy stuff? Do I support that? No. Do I support the other side that were doing just as equally the same thing, gouging out eyes and doing it? No. It should be a personal conviction, but it's the concept of where did this lead people to do before in the past, right? And why we would want to stain from that ourselves as a personal individual and have that standard, right? So where did it go? Why do I not want to do that again? Because the Bible is correct. There's nothing new under the sun. So we can always look back to something in history and gauge, does that look like something we got going on today or something that we see that's very similar? Anyways,
Mhm. Yeah,
anything
no,
else
it's good.
you want to say? Because this is
No,
all for you.
well, well, thank you. But, but I'm thinking of what you're saying, like, yeah, these graven images, like that image, but I think human nature is, we see something over and over, we start to give it meaning, and, like
Yes.
our brain believes us when we, say words or about things, or we look at something. And now if we're looking at it with any kind of reverence, this thing in our brain, it starts to accept, like, oh, this is a holy thing.
Right.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
imbue that
Anyway.
upon it, and then I'm over
Oh,
here
good Lord.
thinking is like, well, we're saying, oh, Israel, look what they did. You're still doing the same thing. And like even getting a little nativity scene, your little figurines. That was and this is like that's idolatry. No, it's not. Well, what about the pagan Christmas tree in the foyer? Well, it's not that. Do you? I went to my buddy's house. I said, why do you have Semiramis's vagina hanging on your door? And he's like, I knew that was coming. I knew that you were going to say that. He says, that wasn't me. That was the landlord, and I can't, do whatever. And I was over here like,
Yeah.
okay. But again, this as a Christian, I'm not going to say force, but this is a thing where you prompts the conversation saying, I would prefer we didn't. If they call you a party pooper or not in the seasonal spirit, cool.
Yeah.
But it prompts them to look at you and going like, okay, so why can't you do this for religion, faith reasons? Sorry, faith
Yeah.
reasons.
Yeah. Exactly.
Because you
Yeah.
don't want to look like the rest of the world. So there's that. All right. Sip of
Yeah.
this and we'll
Okay.
continue.
All right. I'll take a sip too.
Oh, it's so good.
Mm.
I have been waiting literally for about 8 to 9 months for this cinnamon, apple, and ginger juice blend.
Oh my gosh. Where do you get it?
Walmart.
Oh
And it's
my
actually
gosh. No
organic.
way.
Um, and it is so absolutely delicious as opposed to that crap eggnog with all the
Oh
ingredients that they
yeah.
put in there and whatnot. So
Yeah.
I try to get all healthy alternatives, and
Love
my
it.
goodness, it tastes so good. Um, yes, thank you everybody who
Love it.
supports the show. That is a little thing. I don't get a lot, but those little things, it's the little things that count.
Yeah.
When
I
we
get
get to
it.
heaven, I have very small requests, and that's probably one of them. I like
The
that
cinnamon
stuff.
apple juice from Walmart. Got it. Yeah.
It's good. It's good stuff. All right.
I love it.
Anyways,
Okay.
the Christ Child's tree. When a baby brother or sister arrives in a German family, there must be a present for the older child called a child's foot. At least from the 14th century onward, the Christ child has been a little brother to so many small persons. At his birth, therefore, every boy and girl must receive a child's foot. And so this gifts of Christmas are regarded. The tree too is his gift, and it's called Christ tree. Although common folk who have created the Christmas tree are largely unfamiliar with its factual history, in their poetry they are more eloquent of its meaning than the chronicle can be. One Christmas Eve, not long ago, one of the legends of the dark wind in the white snow howled and drove about the forester's cottage, at deep in the midst of the tall trees. Inside, the forester and his family were warm and snug, and when a tiny knock came at the door, startled, the forester arose quickly and opened it. There stood a small child, cold, exhausted, hungry. Quickly they took him in and shut out the storm. They warmed him by the fire, and fed him with their goodly plain food, and put him in their coziest of beds. The morning broke in a dazzling white such as they had never seen before. The angel choir had returned with its great music that reaches down to shepherds and cottagers. The child stood before them, radiant now. He said, there is nothing I can give you beyond what you have except one thing. From a fir tree he broke off a branch and planted it by the door. Straightway it blossomed. Behold, he said, my gift to you. Henceforth it shall always bear its fruits at Christmas, when all the world is empty and dead. To you it shall be a sign of faith that does not die. End of the chapter. Wasn't that quick,
Wow.
everybody? How you over here thinking these are long and boring?
Yeah.
Anyways, we have,
Wow.
let's see, 97 to 103. We have 6 more pages and they're very small, but we'll pause.
Okay.
Anything you want to say with that?
No, but I mean, I'm a child's foot. At that part, I don't know. What?
We can always ask the Googs.
Oh yeah, let's child's foot.
What was the significance of a child's foot in German folklore regarding Christmas, and why was it called that? Oh goodness, first thing that shows is
Oh,
Krampus.
oh no way.
In German Christmas folklore, a child's foot, especially a boot or shoe left out, signifies, yeah, there we get our stockings. Signifies the tradition of
Oh,
Saint Nicholas rewarding good children with treats and punishing the naughty with switches, with the foot itself being the vessel for the rewards, warnings rooted in ancient pagan winter figures and Christian saints, stemming for the Germanic word like Krampen, claw. I didn't know that before. For the demonic companion of Krampus, who delivered the birch sticks rootin'. Significance of the foot, boot or shoe, the vessel of judgment. On the eve of St. Nicholas, December 5th, children place a boot or shoe outside their door. Rewards if good, the boot is filled with sweets, coins, and small gifts. Punishments if naughty, it might contain a birch stitch or a lump of coal, signifying Krampus's visit. So somehow we have merged Krampus with Santa in the Western equivalent of this, which Santa, Satan, one and the
oh,
same.
yeah,
Why is
wow.
it called in the name's origins? Krampus, or Punisher, the frightening horned companion of Saint Nicholas. By the way, this could be, I'm just having this insight now that you mention it,
Mhm.
Cernonus, where we get the term CERN,
Okay.
SCERN, which gave us our internet, enter, place for tumor corpse net to hold or restrain something. Cernonus means horned one. He is supposed to be the god of the underworld, as is Osiris, an equivalent of Nimrod. Now, for demonstrational purposes, that's the guy you always see with the X, the classic pharaoh pose.
Uh-huh.
X is a regeneration, reincarnation. The son is reborn. Sorry, the father is reborn into his son.
Oh,
Now you see how people are goofing this up, saying, "Well, that sounds like Christ." And
yeah,
no, in the
no.
occult, the blood of Nimrod fell upon a coniferous yew tree, and there was a gift left beneath it. Now,
Mm.
personally, I'm suspecting Semiramis, his wife, got impregnated, and to cover up for the pregnancy, she's like, "Oh, it was Nimrod that gave it to me," as opposed to falling for adultery, because back then they could like burn you if you yeah, so let's cover for that. I think this is kind of where she got the idea. It's Nimrod reborn inside me.
Oh
Um,
my gosh.
it's a
Wow.
hunch. I
Oh my
don't have
God.
100% proof. Anyways, Osiris is also an equivalent of Dis-Patar. Dis means set apart.
Mhm.
Patar means father, set apart
Okay.
father. But Dis is also the same as saint, set apart. And we
Oh,
have Saint Peter, Dis-Patar. Unholy Trinity of Babel. We get Peter being representative of Osiris, Christ being a
what?
representative of Tammuz, and
Yeah.
Semiramis, his wife, mother, being the representation of the Virgin Mary, aka Queen of the Heavens.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Yeah, and that was affiliated, if you look in your Bibles, dear Catholics, that is always affiliated with the pagan goddess Ashtaroth, and the sigil of Ashtaroth is the pentagram. I'm looking into something right now, and it's only giving me further confirmation about 2027. There's supposed to be something with the Star of Venus, because that connects with the morning star, and that connects with the pentagram. And it's
Mm.
supposed to be coming towards the fall, I think into 27, into March of 2028. A star in the sky, a Messiah event. Maybe I will be wrong, maybe I won't be wrong, but I think there'll be something at the pyramids because again, Christmas trees, pyramids, dollar
Mm.
sign. Anyways, where we also get the word discernment. Dis set apart, cern horned one, ment mind. Set apart the horned one from your mind. Beautiful little things here in etymology. Now, whether or not people want to argue all the semantics, I do see like that's kind of a lot of coincidences to coincidate into one thing. Anyways. The frightening horned companion of St. Nicholas. So now you could say that Tammuz could be Santa, and then Krampus could be Nimrod coming back to join his son and the shenanigans. I'll bring them to the underworld if they don't obey my son in the realm of
Oh,
life,
yep.
Tammuz, who
Mhm.
gives you life and regeneration, reincarnation, or they can come down to my side if they've been bad,
Mm,
and I'll punish them for not obeying you. Could be a little bit where we get this lore and mythos. Now, bear in mind, this is like that deity telephone thing that I've said before, where this guy says this, that one says this. You have different cultures, you have different
mhm,
languages, you have the migration, you have time. All of this added into what did they originally say? And I'm giving that as a hypothesis here. But when you watch the movie Team Red 1 with Dwayne Johnson and who's the other guy in that? Oh, anyways, Dwayne Johnson teams up with somebody and they have Krampus in there, which ironically enough, that was my favorite character when I watched it, even though I know his programming. I was watching it going, this is interesting. And then they also had Santa and all that stuff. But for me, they were kind of showing a little bit of, if you understood the connotation there, um, they were giving a little bit of hints, like Santa was saying, says, it's not me. They're the ones that want this. They want the holiday season. If they don't
mm,
want it, then the energy loses it, right?
huh,
You have to put that energy, you imbue it saying this is significant when it's really not. Same thing with the uniform. That means authority. I have to respect it. But if and then you tell somebody, I don't respect the uniform. But you have to. Why?
right.
Because I base respect on per interaction with said individual. Because
Mhm,
there is a lot of douchebag guys that wear uniforms that
mhm,
are not to be respected, right? But basing it on a per individual interaction, right? Because you're telling me automatically I have to give respect to somebody that's an authority over me. Or what does the
mhm,
Bible say, right? When you turn the other cheek, that's not supposed to be solely a submission action. When you say you're going to turn your other cheek, right? A slave is not supposed to look back at his master. If you do that, you're basically saying I'm your equal. Hit the other side as well. Yeah.
oh,
It's
okay.
basically saying that we're both human, we're both flawed. Now, what are you
Mhm,
supposed to do? Because yes, I'm giving the option for a second hit, but at the same time, I'm saying I'm your equal.
mhm. Oh, wow.
Yeah. Little things
Mm,
like that we don't
wow.
really catch on too much with.
Oh
Anyways,
my
the frightening
gosh.
horned companion of St. Nicholas, Krampus, is associated with the old High German word for krampen, meaning claw or grasp. Root, the switch, the birch branches, Krampus carries and sometimes leaves in boots. It's called the Rooten in German, to swat bad children. And pagan roots. Krampus emerged from the pre Christian Alpine folklore, a shaggy goat like figure representing winter's wildness, later integrated and sometimes banned by the church alongside that of St. Nicholas. In essence, the child's foot or boot acts as a magical portal for St. Nicholas and his dark counterpart Krampus to deliver blessings or warnings, with the name reflecting the claw of the demonic punisher and the switch he wields. So it's basically a Horcrux, like in the Harry Potter movies.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. Right.
So,
Mm,
anyways, that's where you get that from. See, again, that's me looking into Google, and then I'm giving you all the other stuff that I've read because people are saying, "Oh, you're just googling and you think you know
mm.
everything." No, I read a
Oh
lot,
no.
so when I'm reading this, it makes more sense. I'm not just shooting random things. I'm like I piece this together by
Yep.
taking time to study. Anyways, again, folks, feel free to support the show down below and to write any comments you have. I'd really like to make this a little bit more interactive with folks that want to join in. Anything you'd like to say,
Oh.
Renee?
No, no. We have more pages to read, right?
Six more pages, and
Okay,
they're
cool.
very small.
Okay. Yeah, no, 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 no. This is just so fascinating.
It really is. See,
Um, oh, something that stood out to me was
yes,
where was it? Oh yeah. Just they were just like I can't remember what the details, but they were just like, the peasants decorated the trees.
mm-hmm.
Peasants that just really stood out to me. Like, oh, okay. What I mean, I guess that's like is that the masses? I don't know. I'm just kind of speculating here,
Peasants,
but the
masses,
masses,
serfs, if you
yeah,
want to call them.
well,
So this is another thing. When Rome started to shatter, right? they started to infiltrate tribes, right? They got rid of the tribes in
Okay.
Europe.
Yeah.
Why? And they basically started reaching out saying, oh, like I read before, that's pagan. We're going to Christianize it. We're going to call it a saint, and you can still keep doing what you're doing, basically. We're just going to Christianize it.
Uh-huh.
Same thing what
Yep.
we did
Yep.
over here in the West when we started conquering the Native Americans and stuff like that. We got rid of their way of life, where we put them on reservations, right? And we got rid of everything that they used to believe in. They got rid of tribes for a reason, right? They
Mm.
started creating fiefdoms. They had a caste system, a European equivalent. You had a serf, you had a lord, you had a this. Now, lord means lord, owner, or master, right? So basically what that means. And that is what the name Baal means.
Mm.
Lord, owner, or master, right? So now I'm over here going, there's not supposed to be anybody called Lord except
That's right.
God.
That's right.
And now we're creating as well with wonderful Martin Luther, who people should not be following. He basically started working for the princes of Germany to create the concept in Protestant thinking of divine rule.
Mm.
All right, because you can't really do that through the Vatican. You need to have a divine ruler, right? Because the Vatican is supposed to be your backup. He's supposed to be your Krampus, right?
Mm.
The enforcer, if you will,
Mm.
appointed by God, but
Mhm.
there needs to be a divine ruler of man. Now, like I said, Donald means world ruler. Trump, what, to deceive, one up, or outdo somebody else, and he has name etymology that goes all the way back to Baal when we break this
Right.
down.
Yeah.
Kind of weird. And he's also the exchequer of Vatican and World Banks. And this concept of money, one eye, mono eye, that's what that means. So again, we have him now creating fiefdoms with technocracy, creating freedom cities and districts where they're going to watch us in a surveillance state, right? Dividing it into 10 districts. The Club of Rome,
Oh,
they have 10 districts. The 10 clay toes in the Empire of Iron and Clay,
oh my gosh.
right? So when they're starting to say we have lords now over us, right? What do the
Hmm.
lords need us to do?
Mm.
Hegelian dialect, right? In order to have this perfect concept, I was just reading in a book, The Enemy, Our Enemy, the State. Forgetting his first name. J. Knock is last two is the middle and last name. Type that in if you're interested in
Okay.
that book. Very good, very insightful. Basically, he's talking about the Hegelian dialect that is creating the concept where the peasants need to be entertained with stupid little things.
Yeah.
And he talks about uniforms, talks about
Oh.
festivals, talks about flags, talks about all these little decorations and stuff like that. Because that is what keeps the peasantry in line because they think they're part of something greater.
Oh.
And then they'll tell
Wow.
you, don't worry, whoever you elect in there, they have your best interest in mind because they're one of you. And in actuality, they choose from Masonic lodges. They choose with Jesuit appointeds. They have, the bloodlines. And the one or the two that get through, cool, the system's working, right? But then what do they do with those people? They blackmail them, they blacklist them, or they do imperial coercion where, like I was reading in the book at the time, he was around when there was this gentleman by the name of Senator Long. He's one of the couple politicians in the last 150 years in America that was assassinated. He was kind of the Bernie Sanders of his day. He was for the Great Green New Deal, whatever it was. What was the equivalent back then? Something, whatever act
Uh,
was passed, he wanted to even go further, and he was standing up to Roosevelt. What Roosevelt did, just kind of like we're doing
yeah.
today, I'm going to cancel all federal funding to the state of Louisiana until you toe the line. So again, does the
Oh.
system work? Yes. Once in a while, when somebody gets a little ruffled up, what do? They do collective punishment for the entire state because of that one individual that dares to defy their system, right? So they have it all set in play, but in the meantime, peasants just keep doing what you're doing, the Kabbalah. And this is why Christ condemned the Pharisees, because they're the religious leaders.
Mhm.
People look up to you. And
Mm.
what does he tell them? You are teaching them the traditions, Kabbalah, of men. You're keeping them lukewarm while you basically run off with all the riches. You're telling them to keep doing this, right? And cursed are you because you're basically misleading everybody, telling them they're doing it fine, and you're using my word and my name as a seal of endorsement. You have responsibility. to lead the people, and you're misleading them, telling them that it's okay to keep doing all this stuff because you gain power, basically. I'm against megachurches, is what God is saying, or
Yeah,
people
yeah,
who
yeah.
use my word to justify them making corporate gains.
Oh my gosh.
It's
That
a
makes
little,
so much sense. Yeah,
yeah.
that makes sense. I know that.
I know you
Wow.
said
So
something minor, but it's like,
yeah,
yeah, this has a
no, I get it.
bigger
Yeah,
ramificational effect.
right. Right. You can control the masses
Yes.
and have them like these fake tribes because we are tribal people. We are tribal,
Not
right?
even necessarily
Yeah.
tribes, because the way of tribes, and I was talking to Doreen the other day about this, because somebody wrote a comment saying, "Well, tribes are just as bad, man." Blah, 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 blah.
Mm,
I'm like, and as a
I
black
don't
guy,
really
no
think that.
offense, but you should have a little bit more respect for that, because tribes is what made up Africa. Tribes are what made Europe. Tribes are what
Yes.
made North America. We had the 12 tribes of Israel. Why did we get rid of the system of tribes?
Yeah.
And I don't mean tribal thinking minds. No, we've bastardized it now. Tribal meant
Okay. Yeah.
all the men, we are warriors. We protect. We
Yep.
provide. We go out, we're gatherers and diggers. We hunt together. We build together, right? We function together. It's not I send a representative to go talk to me in the lodge. We have a powwow. Everybody comes and talks if they have
Yeah.
something to say.
Yes.
Every woman is called mother, right? Takes a village to
Yeah.
raise a child. Yeah, and it doesn't necessarily mean it's just like, oh, just mother. No, it means mother as in I respect you as a woman. You're nurturing. You're the people who cook. You're the people who organize. You're the people who give advice in other areas that we may not be considering. There are so many aspects that we do not appreciate about the person. And as I was saying to Doreen, we have people right next door. They've been there for 15, 20 years. I still don't know the name of her husband.
Yeah.
That's the world we're living in now.
Oh
We're back
yeah,
in the day.
exactly.
You knew everybody in the
Hmm.
tribe, right?
Yeah. Yes.
So they put us in boxes so we don't even love our neighbor as ourselves, right? We don't
Yeah.
have a guest room. We don't, right? Not unless somebody wants to make profit off of you.
Yeah.
That's usury,
Hmm.
and that's forbidden in the Bible. Taxes, it's technically forbidden, or it's
Wow.
supposed to be abolished every 7 years,
Mm.
Jubilee. So this, when I'm saying tribe, now it's kind of becoming a thing of like God's people, people who are set apart from this world, and they don't think in statist thinking, where you need the government to regulate and dictate how things are done. The whole concept, even with money. I use this money because this is how Caesar and his people get along with this stuff, but this doesn't mean anything to me. Instead of
Hmm.
communism, communism of the early church was, I'll give it all up, we'll put it into the body of Christ. Because technically speaking, we're not living in the system. We're using what is his and we're giving to what is his, but we're ultimately concerned about helping the community. We have a widow in need, we have an orphan. Ironically enough, where do we get a lot of widows and orphans? Outside of a pandemic or whatever, wars. That means God's against wars because the church is always supposed to be helping people like that, right? So you think of it in that context, you're like, wait a minute. We really are goofing it up. In the last 50, 60 years, they have us all freaked out because when it's state regulated communism or capitalism, it's just as bad. Because capitalism, you type that into your Google, capitalism and mammon, and you'll find a lot of connections are going to pop up with that because the system of capitalism promotes the idea of self accumulation, the love of money, and
Oh,
using the means of usury to get that.
okay. Yeah.
Communism, again, when dictated and regulated by the state, a government, right? It's going to hurt people because it's now being dictated by people who are in charge over you. The other one is saying we're supposed to do mutualism, technically speaking.
Mhm.
I have a beneficial need to help you succeed. For instance, right now, this interaction. Brandon, I don't have time to read. I'm busy working. You are an intellectual. You like reading. Here's five
Yeah.
bucks. Now teach me. As opposed to going to a school, going to a college, you're now investing in something that you're interested in, right? It's your own choice of what you do with it. You're
Mm-hmm.
putting that investment into something that's giving you something back,
Yeah.
right? Not that I'm trying to get mega millions and stuff like that. I'm
Yeah.
not. I'm getting by
Yeah.
per month. But it's that aspect of if you appreciate it, you invest with it. Other people are thinking, what do I get out of it? Right? If we're doing this
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
exchange, it's
Yeah.
just solely what I
Yeah.
get.
Uh-huh.
Right? They're trying to make profit. The
Uh-huh.
other one is saying, what can I give to you? I'm doing this because I want to see Christians, right? I want to see them start doing and not be just fellow viewers, be fellow doers,
Okay.
right? That's what discipleship's supposed to do.
Hmm.
So this is how we're supposed to be starting to view this, is that I'm not using this for this, that, and the other thing. I'm using this to how can I help somebody next to me?
Hmm.
Mutualism was an idea I think pitched, was it Kropotkin? I think he wrote a book called The Quest for Bread. And mutualism is kind of like the concept I think that he used was like the rhinoceros in Africa. He has those little birds that come over and pick all the ticks off of him with all the mud and stuff like that. Are they helping each other? Yes. So I'm not going to brush them off. I'm going to keep
Oh.
letting them do what they're doing because I'm technically benefiting off of
Hmm.
what they're doing. So we're going to work together to get to a common goal. It's the same thing with other things. With any aspect of life, I need to borrow your hammer. You're busy doing car shop stuff today.
Hmm.
Probably not going to need a hammer as much with a car
Yeah.
when you're doing body work. So can I borrow your hammer? Yes. Do you need to charge me for that? No. See what I'm
Yep.
saying? We're going to
Yep.
work together because it's helping everybody for your job, my job, so on and so forth.
I love it.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool. Because I know everybody's going to get freaked out because the minute they hear that, I'm like, I never endorse state-run money things. It's more of if we have to live in Caesar's world, give to Caesar what's his.
Yeah.
We're doing this for a spiritual focus here. All right, last
All
six
right.
pages. Chapters.
I'm
That'd be way too much.
gonna, but I'm listening. I'm okay.
Okie dokie. All right, so the epilogue. A scholar has said that much or even most of history of the Northland is contained in the two words of Yule and Christmas. And in our telling, we have stressed the tale as it is developed in Northland. The bias has no more back of it than the shape that the general history of our own country has taken since its founding. Christmas, we have seen, is of the Mediterranean, and yet it can never be said of that world, as it can be of the Northland, and its history in the contained in this festival. For the Mediterranean world already had not merely centuries, but a millennia behind it when Christ was born. And even the religion that he founded and traveled several centuries before it discovered its need of Christmas. The Northland, on the other hand, was then only a child, under the schooling that the Southland gave it in the last 1,500 years. It has grown to adulthood. The Northland began its growth under the guidance of the Christianity, which had already learned the need of Christmas. Thereupon, in the Middle Ages, Rome and the Northland together set forth on an adventure. It was new, and so colossal, that we can call it nothing less than an adventure in art. It took on many forms of expression, which ranged over the entire realm of human affairs. It built a new world and molded a new kind of person. The inventions of the Gothic cathedral and the pipe organs are parts of this adventure. They are but examples of it in their own fields. They are indeed symbols of it, and so is Christmas, and so much more. That each is hardly understandable without the other. Christmas is a spontaneous drama, and the common folk a prayer, a hymn, all the while that the Raphael was painting the Sistine Madonna, Frenchmen building the Cathedral of Cartes, English bishops composing the Book of Common Prayer, Handel his Messiah, and Bach his B minor Mass, the common people out of whom these geniuses sprang were composing Christmas. The lifeblood of a people is its traditions, Kabbalah, and Christmas has become great because men and women have given to it their deepest and most enduring selves. What they achieve in common and what their common frustrations are make of them one people. And again, what does Christ tell us? Come out of her, my people. Then, as the adventure of one Christmas after all is a part now closed. Could we, at Christmas, stand away from Europe and the countries that have sprung from her across the seas? We should behold all of them doing the same thing, yet each in a way that is also somewhat peculiar to itself. These nations are not all of one birth. To some, birth has come sooner than to others, and when our fingers touch their Christmas, we are feeling their flesh and bone. Perhaps We shall best understand this if we particularly look at some of the more poorer nations of the world and listen to their sounds. To their people, at least, the notion of the secular as distant from the religious life is an unreal thing. Religion is, so to many people, poor people, not a garment which they don on Sunday when they have cast work a day dress aside. It is something that walks the furrows and sits in the kitchen. It is the angelus in the field and saying of grace. It is not just a solace, it is an aspiration. Were you, on Christmas Eve, a guest in a poor home in Poland, you would eat from a table covered with linen cloth, beneath which hay or straw has been laid, in an old pagan Slavic custom of the season, done over by the Christians to mean the bedding of the manger. Supper is not eaten before the head of the household has broken and consecrated a wafer and shared it with every one present, in token that he is ready to share with all of them his last morsel. A painting by Malkzewiski depicts a group of Polish exiles gathered about their manger table to eat together the wafers sent from the homes they expect never to see again. A cloth covers the straw. A candle is on the table. A samovar for tea at the farther end, and part of the loaf of bread. We look at their faces. They are not ordinary. They are the kind who destiny frequently is exile. To the common table each man has brought his sacred and unassailable inner solitude. The head of one is bowed, in the shadow behind it, up-tilted soup plate. Another is holding his soup plate forth to receive his wafer. The leader is standing. From a wrapper he is shaking into his palm the wafers that have arrived from the homeland. Christmas is an intimate occasion, a family affair, and these men are gathered fragments of broken from so many families far away, families that have shared a common custom for generations. But there is here much more than separation from family and personal friends. These are children who are being denied the nourishment of their motherland at the very moment when, in street, in house, in tavern, and church, all of her life is welling up to meet the agony of the ages and the hope that yearly is reborn, this night, in the dead of winter. So, the music of the Christmas morning has its dark strain. It has always been there. The common folk of the Middle Ages, and those who are their descendants, and simple wisdom sprung from their lives, have never shrunk from the note of sadness, of coming together for which is this birthday, as a preparation. Sometimes it sounds in their carols, yet we hear no discord, only a sweeter and finer and deeper music. While then we have stressed the Christmas of the Northland, we have remembered that this drama is greater even than the Northland is given to it, to a wider range of lands and peoples, as well to a longer span of time than the recent centuries. It has great confession of failure, of frustration, yet of faith and hope that for generations have answered death with a song of triumph. It is a wager placed on the side of the angels. Humankind has a long journey behind it, and a rugged journey thus far. Nevertheless, in long perspective, a journey upward. And so it is that, in our own short time, whatever the challenge of despair, there live today those who are thinking more lofty and daring thoughts than ever before. And that concludes this book. How?
Oh, that's
I know it
great.
didn't seem like much, but little things like that, manger, where we actually get that concept from, because, like, again, a lot of us are always thinking it's a barn. No, probably in a cave, based off the
Mm.
anthropology of how they lived back then, what
Hmm.
things look like.
Hmm.
Thoughts, complaints, concerns.
Oh, well, it's just something that stood out to me. I was just kind of just sad thinking here, like Handel's Messiah, like what a beautiful, like beautiful music. And how it like it just kind of quelled the masses, just made the masses just be like, oh yes, this is Christ's mass. And we're here to celebrate Christ. Like how I could see how people get really passionate about it. I mean, I've listened to Handel's Messiah. It's incredible. And
Yes.
I mean, I'm not like, I love those music. It's really moving and spiritual. And yes, I am glad Jesus was born and all that. Like,
Right.
well, anyway, and I'm just thinking like that is a pretty strong drive, like, well, I'm doing this for Christ. And it just, as I'm learning all this, it just kind of just saddens me. Like, there's this beautiful work and
Well,
it's
again,
just
they
so
could have done it
disrupted.
for the right reasons,
Yes,
but they
right.
then weaponized it for the wrong reasons.
Yes.
And
Well
even with
said.
Christmas songs, it's technically propaganda.
I know.
We play it again, we play it again, we play it again. And then when somebody comes over and tells you the truth, they're like, well, I don't do it for those reasons. God knows my
Yes.
heart. It's like, because I have to get rid of
Yes.
all these things. And again, we do it since the time that we're infants.
Yep. This
You
is
hear the
deep
music, you see
programming.
the tree, you do this,
Hmm.
and I say, I'm doing it for them, for their memories. Um, I, what does Christ say? Those that love their family are not worthy of me. Right? You love them more than me, and he's talking about in Amos. I abhor your feast days, right? Now, while we think it's good, it's just like what Doreen was mentioning. Shout out to Doreen, another supporter of the show. She was saying that the whole concept of why we play music during the offering is that prompts people into put them in an emotional state and put more money in the
Oh my
plate.
gosh.
I
So
was going,
true.
I've never really thought of that, but you're
So
right.
good. Yes.
And the longer the church or the longer the pews, the longer you're sitting there going, yeah, all right, yeah, this is kind of getting to
Yep.
me emotionally. Boom, and you drop another 100 in there, and you're just like, I couldn't really afford that, right?
Yeah.
And we get, like you said, it puts us into this emotional trance that we start doing things out of emotion and not overthinking spiritually. Am I doing this for the right reasons? And we should be constantly asking ourselves, as Paul said, examine if you be in the faith,
Hmm.
as opposed to being
Yeah.
impulsive. And that's what you call churchianity. You start doing it for the wrong reasons to look good and because you're in the
Yes.
emotions, but you're not doing it for the right reasons because you're doing it because you love Christ.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, that stood out to me.
Well, again, it doesn't necessarily mean that's evil, but then you can always look into the histories like, was this guy
Yeah.
possibly controlled? I mean, with all this stuff with speaking into the whatever thingy. And people who are getting all freaked out, well, you shouldn't be talking to AI for consultations. I hear you. I understand where you're coming from, but that's what you did every time you typed into Google in its infancy
Yeah.
form.
Pretty much.
Same thing. But like I said, I typed that in here. No weapon formed against us shall prosper.
That's right.
Right? That's what we got as Christians here. So, but I was able
That's
to
right.
explain a lot just from reading a little something asking for specifics. Uh, I think that's everything. The next one I wanted to do was the mind of Judas and kind of explaining how Judas one
Mm.
got his name, I suspect.
Hmm.
Two, why he would betray Christ, and three, what was he thinking when he did do it, as opposed to what we're typically told. Now, I'd be pulling from basically two sources. It's probably about 13, 14 pages total. If that, it might be even under that from the two books.
Hmm.
I was wondering if that would be something people would be interested in because it somewhat gives away as well, explaining the Maccabees and why
Mm.
Christ was a threat to Herod, as opposed to just some guy wants to usurp me. Historically, what was his mindset? So it kind of gives you a little bit post Christmas theme stuff. And also gives you a little bit of history of the Maccabees, and also explains to you
Yes.
what Judas was thinking. Considering that's a book that they took out of the Bible, I think it's kind of relevant if we kind of covered that as well. We have a little bit better of a mindset um, of understanding characters that are in the Bible. So that was my next thought. I wanted to bounce that off of you guys, but since there's only one you guy gal
All
here,
right. Well,
uh,
then I say I think it sounds like a great idea. So
okay.
there.
We'll
I like that.
I'll probably be posting this one in a day or two, and I want to get
All
it
right.
up before the end of the year, before Christmas Day.
Okay.
Um, okay, we'll go with that.
Nice.
Anything else you wanted to say, add, suggest, comment?
No, no. I mean, gosh, I'm so honored that you did this in spite of it just being just one person, little old me tonight. So, this is
Of
really, really
course, of
cool.
course.
I
Like I
know.
said,
Yeah.
you guys are the ones supporting the shows. And again, folks, if you're interested, DM me and try to coordinate something. If you are supporting the show, especially because you'd be surprised, $3. If you did that every month, if it was like $3 or $5, that's like $60 a year. I mean, like, oh, I don't like doing 10% tithe. That's fine. $3. That's like $1 or 90 cents a week or something like that. I've done all this stuff. I'm like, that's basic. That's like that's chunk change in my car for crying out loud. That's mowing a lawn. That's
Yeah.
getting a newspaper from like 50s category here, and you are doing that via your donation. So please consider, as I said before, looking at that link down below. Maybe ask God, pray about it. I'm totally fine with that too. If there's other people, I would recommend putting money towards ministry over other things these days. Manna Daily Podcast, Spotify, Rumble, YouTube, and if you can, and if you're able, as I said, Patreon. And without any further ado, folks, we will catch you all on the next one.